Stand up, New York Giant fans. Super excited. I got Mike back on the channel. We took a week off last week because we were kind of like, we'll wait till the trade deadline, which nothing happened.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we'll wait till we have something to talk about after the Bucs game. Obviously, we were waiting until Monday night. I think they played Thursday the week before, so it was almost kind of like a bye week, which we'll have again in, I think, 2 or 3 weeks. But, Mike, man, first off, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. And if anybody in the chat is not subscribed to Miketoonice, please do so. If my mods could do so, drop his link in the chat below. Really would appreciate it. We'll be over there next week. Mike, what's going on, buddy?
I'm all right. I mean, we're both tired, as we said, but for the Giants, I think we both agreed that a lot of guys on that team played well. The team fought very hard. There was one outlier, of course, and we know it's the quarterback, and we'll talk a lot about that today. But I thought the team played very hard. I mean, I'm pretty encouraged by the coaches, honestly. Like seeing what Patrick Graham did against Tom Brady, who's been around forever, and seeing what Jason Garrett did, who I thought called his best game possibly last night, and even Joe Judge making the getting the guys motivated to play a game where you're basically a plus 12.5 based on the point spread to get them up for that game. And to basically, they should have went to overtime. Let's be honest. You can call it pass interference, maybe not. We know Jones threw that ball a bit too late. They should have went to overtime with a very good Buccaneers team that I think has a good chance to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. So to be that close with them, I would say it's a pretty good performance, but the Giants have obvious concerns with their main position right now.
Yeah, the two most important parts on a team are a coach and the quarterback, the head coach and the quarterback. And we'll start with the coach. I am completely with you on Joe Judge. And a lot of people, not a lot of people, but I had a couple people in my stream last night. And hello to everybody in the chat, by the way. King Andy, Henny God, Scotty, Joe Lutz, Waterfly. Thank you to everybody for being here. A lot of people in my chat last night, not a lot, a couple, were saying fire Joe Judge. And I'm like, what? The New York Giants, I get it, we're 1-7. The first thing, I think you liked my tweet, so you saw it. Parcells started with 3 wins his first year. And for anybody that is upset because the New York Giants are 1-7 and think that Joe Judge should be fired because of that, what did you expect? I mean, I was hoping 2-6, 3-5 at this point in time. Did you look at the schedule? Did you look at the roster that the New York Giants have? What did you expect from this football team? If you are upset because they're off to a slow start with Joe Judge, you're going to want every coach fired that they bring in here. The New York Giants did not have a team equipped going into the year with everything going on to have a team with a winning record. This team has fought and clawed against teams that really they shouldn't be fighting with. The LA Rams in LA, we had no business being in that game. The game last night against the Bucs, we had no business being in that game. And I think a lot of it falls on the coaching staff and the team playing for them. They seem fundamentally sound, and the team is coming out every week, and they're giving you their best effort. So anybody that is knocking Joe Judge right now, I don't know what to tell you. I completely disagree.
Yeah, I don't see it enough to the point of people saying that where it annoys me, but I believe you. I'm sure some people would say that. I think I saw maybe a couple people on Twitter say it, but at the same time, as you said, the Giants, they've had, I tweeted this today, they've had 4 games where they lost by 10 points combined. So you can tell how close they are in these games. Should the Giants have 4 or 5 wins right now? Yeah, it's very likely. We're kind of like the Falcons like East right now, or even the Chargers East, you know what I mean? Like we're just blowing these games and games that we should win. But at the same time, if you had realistic expectations of a 6 or 7 win season, you're a little disappointed. But like if you're at the point where you think Joe Judge should be fired, like as you said, you're going to want everybody fired. I think the coaching staff is doing about as well as they can with the talent they have. I've always said the biggest thing here is the talent. The talent for this team is not as good as a team like the Buccaneers and some other teams we've played, especially the Rams as well. But then you talk about other defensive coordinator. Patrick Graham's been great this year. Offensive coordinator. Jason Garrett's gotten off to a very rough start, but lately, the past 3 games or so, it's been a lot better. And I think a lot of it comes down to lack of execution. Like, I don't care how good the coaches are, the players are. If you don't execute in this league or any league, you're not going to win football games. And it came down to Evan Engram. It came down to, a couple of Daniel Jones interceptions. And we saw it last night, of course. The Giants easily could have put up 35, 40 points last night. And how many Darius Slayton missed throws that we see deep and things like that? Like, it just comes down to execution. I don't know how you can blame Joe Judge for Daniel Jones being incapable of completing like 5 deep ball chances and things like that. So you can, point fingers at whoever you want for this, but I don't think Joe Judge is the right guy for that.
Yeah, and another guy, and Patrick Graham, I think, is done great. We talk about it every week that the defense is, definitely ahead of schedule. They're playing a lot better than we anticipated, and they give a great effort each and every week. We talked about that, but I'll tell you what, I think Jason Garrett the last couple weeks has done a great job. Last night, the New York Giants offense, it looked innovative. They were taking shots down the field. I love to play the Golden Tate throw when they threw back to the other side. And how about the block by Nick Gates on that play?
Yeah.
They got him all the way out on the outside. I thought it was a beautifully designed play. I love the coaching staff, top to bottom. I think they're doing a really good job. I agree with you. It's about execution. Some of the players are definitely not executing. Going to get to a couple of these, and we're gonna jump in further into the game. Ayub, man, thank you very much, man. Imagine having the A-Rod and not wanting to surround with talent. Oh, you're talking about Aaron Rodgers. Well, with talent on the Packers are idiots. Rodgers should ask for a trade this offseason. Yeah, that's right. The Packers, I think they had a trade in the works for a wide receiver, and they turned it down or something like that.
Was it Will Fuller or no? Because I feel like
I think it was Fuller, and I think they weren't willing to give up a second-round pick.
Yeah, they tried to get Antonio Brown too, I saw, but Brown ultimately chose the Buccaneers. So they tried, but you got to get another receiver there. I mean, Devontae Adams is crazy, but no one else there is really doing much.
Yeah, and I don't understand. I don't understand why you don't make the trade. And based off the way the Packers draft anyway, they drafted A.J. Dillon in the second round. You could have got him in the fifth. So you might as well trade the second round pick and get him a wide receiver. It's almost like they don't want Aaron Rodgers to be successful.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, it's weird. You kind of see the moves they've made there, and you have a guy that talented, and you come away with what looks like it might be one Super Bowl by the time he's done in Green Bay or for his career. I think, winning a Super Bowl is great, but for a talent that great to only have one, I feel like it's kind of a disappointment, which is crazy to say because it's tough to win one, as we know. But for a guy that good to not surround him with a team, especially at the latter portion of his career, it's definitely a big disappointment for them.
Yeah, and I want to get into the trade deadline as well for the Giants. We'll talk, a little bit about the first trade they made and then kind of just them not deciding to do anything and your thoughts on that. Mike Francesa is in the chat. Thank you so much for the fun. What do you think of Francesa, by the way?
I feel like Francesa used to be good. I feel like lately he's been off the rails and his takes have been very lazy. And ever since that Funhouse account came out, I mean, the Mike's Francesa, old take exposed type things have been phenomenal. So I love when people do imitations of him. Greg Giannotti does a great one. And
yes.
A bunch of awesome imitations of him. So I think it's really the whole aura of Mike Francesa now is just funny. But I'm hoping he's enjoying retirement. He had a great career, but I think he might be a bit overrated, but it is what it is.
Yeah, he's definitely got an ego. Francesa, man, thank you very much. He says, why are we surprised? Look at Jones's numbers against good teams last year. That's how he plays against good teams. He stat stuffs against bad teams. Listen, he's got 4 wins throughout his career. 3 of them came against Washington. And you're right. Last year, that's exactly what he did. It's what a lot of quarterbacks do. It's what Baker Mayfield did in his rookie year. You look at Mayfield's career stats. I think he's got half his touchdowns against the Bengals. Maybe not that many, but he's got a ton. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Jones definitely struggled against better teams last year. And he threw 5 touchdowns against Washington. He threw 4 touchdowns against the Jets. He had another 4-touchdown game against, I can't remember, Lions, maybe? I can't remember.
Jets, Lions, Buccaneers, Washington.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I made a video in the offseason about this exact concept, and I think I called it, the thing about Daniel Jones nobody's talking about. And I basically had his splits between those 4 games against the Lions, Jets, Washington, and the Bucs. And basically, those 4 games accounted for 60 to 70% of his really good stats. He had 15 touchdowns in those games to 0 interceptions. His quarterback rating was off the charts. And yeah, he did what he was supposed to do, play well against a bad team. That's what you're supposed to do. But when you look at the other side of it against his other 8 starts, his numbers were not that good at all. They were very underwhelming. He was fumbling less in those games, which I found really weird. That was a weird correlation. But based on his passing and things like that, his numbers against good defenses were a lot worse. So I did make a video about it because it was a concern to me. I was saying maybe it's a fluke. I know it's a better defense. You're not going to play as well, but it was something I was kind of on the lookout for. But to know that, for how he's playing now, it's kind of can he play well against good defenses? I really don't know at this point. And the Buccaneers, they are a really good defense, and I guess I'm trying to think this year, what's been his best game? I mean, he played really well in week 1 against
last week was
Steelers.
I thought the Eagles game was his best game.
Yeah, definitely. But, I think the Eagles' secondary is beatable. But, I mean, I wouldn't say that's a great defense, but it's a decent defense, I guess we can say. But, yeah, that was a concern of mine is based on what we saw last year. He definitely stat padded in those games against really bad defenses. So, yeah, it's something that definitely have to talk about.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you on this. In terms of playing a really good defense, the Steelers has been the best performance of his career.
Yeah.
I would definitely agree with that. Let's jump into the I want to get back to the game. I want to get to Jones, but because he asked about the trade deadline. Let's jump into that. The golden trade, I think we probably both agree. You take what you could get. You get a 6th-round pick. What more could you have expected as a New York Giant fan? Nobody out there even wanted this guy. They had the option to sign him for $5 million. 31 teams didn't sign him. So I actually think it was probably a bad trade. For trying to trade to acquire him. You probably could have got somebody for free and wouldn't have had to give up a 6th-round pick. I think the Giants got what they could, and I like Marcus Golden, but he's not a guy that anybody wanted. So I'm assuming you probably agree with that.
Yeah, I think it was kind of a blessing for the Giants. I mean, I feel bad for him, of course, but the fact that Chandler Jones was out for the season and now the Arizona is a playoff contention team is probably the only reason they traded for him. If Chandler Jones was still there and healthy, I feel like this trade would not have happened. The Giants kind of benefited from that happening. Arizona needs to fill that spot in with another pass rusher. They get a 6th-round pick for Golden, which I thought was really good. I figured maybe a 7th at most, but they got a 6th for him. I was like, hey, I'll take that for sure. So can you hit on that pick? I mean, it's probably like a 5 to 10% chance you do, but now at least you have it in the future to maybe trade up for another draft pick and things like that. So it's better to have it than not have it.
Yeah, and Golden more than likely wasn't going to be here next year. And if you want him back, you still could sign him. He's a free agent next year.
Yeah.
He's a rental player for the Cardinals. So now in terms of the Giants being inactive at the trade deadline, I'll start. My thoughts on it with the Giants being inactive at the trade deadline. One, we didn't have any players on this roster, in my opinion, that were really going to command much of a price. Now, there were teams out there that were desperate, like Green Bay, but you just heard that Green Bay was turning down an offer for Will Fuller. We don't have any receivers on our roster that can match the skill of Will Fuller. We have some interior defensive linemen, maybe something that they could use. But we said it a couple of weeks ago, we were never going to get more than a 3rd-round pick for anybody on this roster. Maybe if you coupled some players, maybe you get somebody really desperate and you get a 2nd-round pick. So, yeah, I guess I'm a little upset they weren't sellers, but we didn't have a lot to sell.
Definitely. Yeah. You can't really go into it expecting like a 1st or 2nd-round pick for anybody on this roster. I mean, we talked about maybe Evan Ingram for a 2nd at most. I mean, like that probably wasn't going to happen either. I probably would have settled for a 3rd on him. But yeah, I mean, am I disappointed that Zeitler's still here, even though he's probably going to be cut next year? A little bit. But at the same time, does anybody want a Kevin Zeitler who's making that much money on like basically an expiring contract? Probably not. And even Golden Tate, I don't know if you saw the thing about his wife now on Instagram was talking about
I tweeted
Tate.
about
I mean,
it.
Isn't it crazy? Like how I know we're going back far here, how they get rid of Beckham because he wasn't good for the culture and whatnot. And like Golden Tate's been such a distraction here with the suspension, fighting Jalen Ramsey, getting the whole team involved. His wife's going off on Instagram about the lack of targets. It's like, oh, it's just unbelievable. But I am disappointed that he was not traded because Golden Tate's a guy that I think is, we 99% chance he won't be here next year. So I was hoping to get at least a 7th for him. And there were some options, maybe the Packers, the Titans, some people said as well. I guess they didn't want him. So now he's still a Giant for the rest of the year.
Yeah, Zeitler, I still think it's possible we trade him in between seasons because we still have him under contract. Maybe, maybe you do what the Browns did. They traded him from season to season. Maybe that's what the Giants will like to do. He does only have 1 year left on that contract, so we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. If not, you're probably going to end up cutting him, especially with the way Shane Lemieux played. And I kind of want to get into the offensive line as well. J-Man, thank you very much. He says, told you, Chris, almost nada at the deadline. Getty is a lame duck, still trying to squeeze out enough wins. Now we go into the draft with very few high picks for a rebuilding roster. Selfish. Okay, you can't stand Gettleman, so I want to get your take on this. Do you think it was Gettleman being selfish, or they just didn't have much to offer here?
Yeah, of course I would love to blame Gettleman, but I really don't think they were fielding the offers necessary. I mean, could they have gotten 7th-round picks? Maybe, but like there's really no one on this team that people wanted. I think they probably tried to trade Zeitler. They probably tried to trade Golden Tate. Zeitler, maybe they were getting nothing more than a 6th, and they said, all right, we'll just hang on to him. And then Golden Tate, maybe no one wanted him. So, I'm sure they had Evan Ingram out there in trade talks, and they probably didn't get an offer they thought was, for the talent of an Evan Ingram. But I wouldn't say they just didn't try. I don't think this is about Gettleman trying to save his job. I just think it comes down to the Giants felt they were not getting the offer necessary for the players they were giving up. So I think it comes down to that.
Yeah, and you bring up Zeitler. Let's say a team was willing to offer a 6th-round pick. Let's say they were even willing to offer a 5th. If you're the Giants, you might even look at it and say, we could probably get at least a 5th in between season. Let's keep our offensive line intact and try to build up Daniel Jones' confidence throughout the rest of the year. If they weren't getting a deal that was, worth it, I don't blame the New York Giants not for trading away some of these players. So I'm not going to kill the Giants here. There wasn't like a player that I said you absolutely have to trade on this roster. You never want to sell too low, and I think some of these players should be selling way too low right now. So it is what it is. Would I have liked a couple extra draft picks? Yeah. I never thought we were getting maybe more than a 4th. It would have been nice to get one. I'm not going to kill the Giants though for being inactive. Raymond, man, thank you very much. He says, thoughts on Justin Fields as a franchise quarterback? I have watched him a bit at Ohio State, and the one thing that scares me a bit at Ohio State, it's the same thing that people said about Dwayne Haskins. A lot of times in that offense, you've got unbelievable talent. It's not necessarily a pro-style offense. It's a lot of one-on-one throws. That's what scares me. That's what people said about Haskins coming out. Haskins had a ton of talent. You look at the wide receivers. Paris Campbell was a 2nd-round pick. Obviously, we see what McLaurin's doing over with Washington. He had a ton of talent there, and I'm sure, Fields probably has the, same talent. So it's kind of hard to get a read. I'll definitely, in the offseason, if I feel the New York Giants could be taking a quarterback, I'll look more into him. But, I'm kind of a little bit skeptical right now. I want to get your take on it, Mike.
I'm kind of with you. I am skeptical. I do want to watch more, of course. I think I've watched maybe 3 or 4 of his starts, start to finish now. And I've come away with kind of the same thoughts. I hate when people say, like, Ohio State quarterbacks suck because everyone's different. But at the same time, you have to acknowledge that the scheme there is great. And as you said, a lot of one-on-one throws. How would he be in a pro-style offense? How would he do against, safeties over the top and things like that? Just seems like in the Ohio State offense, everything's too perfect for a quarterback, which should not be held against him, but it has to be in the equation here. And I don't know, for Fields, I saw this on Twitter before. Someone put it perfectly. He just looks really stiff. I don't know what it is about Justin Fields, but I'm definitely not sold yet. I still want to watch more, and as people who know me, they know I love Trey Lance. I definitely probably take him right now over him. But if the Giants, took Fields 2nd or 3rd overall, can I live with it? Probably, but I still want to watch more of the guy. I'm not 100% sold. I'm still kind of skeptical like you are.
Yeah, and here's the one thing I'm going to say, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion. And I know Jones is not playing well. I do not want to force a quarterback pick under any circumstances. If they don't feel, and I say this every week, if they don't feel, because then you're going to be doing the same thing you did with Daniel Jones. We talked about a couple weeks ago. We thought that they forced a pick with Jones. Then you're going to force a pick with another quarterback. You have to be completely bought in to one of these prospects to make that pick. If not, maybe you sign a stopgap guy if you feel Jones isn't the guy, or you roll with Jones another year. You don't force the pick under any circumstances. If they feel Fields is the guy and the GM feels that way, you take him, but don't force it. That's my opinion on it.
No, I definitely agree. Do not force the pick because bad things happen, just like we saw with what Jones going on right now. I think a perfect stopgap guy we talked about would be Jacoby Brissett if they can get him. I know it doesn't excite people, but to have him kind of just as a guy that's there for 1 year, and if you don't see a guy in this draft that you like, maybe next year's draft is a guy that you like. So I think having that stopgap guy might be the right move. I've seen people mention Dak Prescott, as crazy as that one sounds, reunite with Jason Garrett. We'll see. But I would not force a quarterback pick because that's when things go terrible for a franchise. And we kind of saw it already. So I really hope we don't do it again.
Yeah, they got to be bought in. Dave Gettleman in the chat. He says, "What's up, Mike?" He says, "In 3 years, you'll find out how crazy I am." Dave, I want to grab a beer with Dave before he gets fired. G-Man Rising says Lance's ceiling is higher than anyone in the draft. I have heard that about Lance. A lot of people are in love with Lance. He does have a high ceiling, but he seems to be one of the more risky guys. And I mean, at the end of the day, we're gonna have to evaluate. We're not gonna know. We're not gonna know until the last 8 games. We don't even know if Gettleman's getting fired yet. We're assuming that. We don't know yet. If Gettleman stays on, Jones is staying on. He's his quarterback. So let's see. Before we even start to speculate this, let's see if Gettleman's back. And I understand that we think he's going to be gone, but doesn't mean he will be. Or if they hire from within house, So it's way too early, in my opinion, to definitively say we're definitely taking a quarterback. I understand the frustration. I understand why people think it's probably what we should do. I say give it the last 8 games. Let's see what Jones has. Ace of Spades says, "How do you feel about Lance? He's fun to watch." Getting a lot of quarterback questions. I'll get your take on Lance.
Kind of expected. Every time someone asks me about Lance, I'm going to have good things to say. I mean, I absolutely love his upside, and I think the guy has literally top 5 upside. He is just really athletic and really mobile. I think with Daniel Jones, it kind of gets confused because Daniel Jones is a really good straight line runner. He's very fast, but Daniel Jones is not going to be too agile and make people miss. I think Trey Lance can do that better. He's a bit more powerful, much better arm in my mind. He effortlessly just throws the ball 65, 70 yards, and it looks unbelievable. I just think the guy has an incredible ceiling. His arm strength is crazy. So seems like a great guy. I think he's been a multi-sport athlete. I think he was a great basketball player as well. And just, he's only 20 years old too, which is, definitely enticing. So he might be one of those guys that has to start out on the bench first and kind of work his way into the starting lineup, kind of like how Tua Tagovailoa, how that happened so far. But he's a prospect that if the Giants took him, I can 100% get behind because unlike Daniel Jones, I see an outcome where Trey Lance is a top 5 quarterback in this league if everything breaks right. Of course, you have to have a good team around him. It would definitely help. I think he can make a lot of plays off script, which would definitely benefit him on a bad team. But if you have a guy like Daniel Jones, you need pieces around him to be good. And so far, we have not seen that. And for last night, for instance, I think the Giants' offensive line did pretty well. The receivers were getting open, but it was just on him last night. But for the most part, Daniel Jones has had a pretty not so good supporting cast, but a guy like Trey Lance doesn't exactly need that. So I think drafting him, I can definitely get behind it. I do want to see a bit more of him, and it sucked he only played 1 game this year, but I think for a guy that has all the tools and all the upside in the world, he's a very exciting pick.
Yeah, from what I've seen, the guy's definitely a great athlete. He's definitely got a pretty big arm. I would probably have him second right now of the quarterback prospects because of his upside. Obviously, I think we both agree that Trevor Lawrence is one. But you talked about the offensive line, and I want to talk about that. I'm a huge offensive line guy. And the New York Giants obviously spent a ton of draft capital on the offensive line in this year's draft. And last night, Perrin was in there a bit. He wasn't in there, throughout the entirety of the game. But we got to see all three rookies in action. Lemieux, I was shocked at the PFF grade, but it looked like to me Lemieux played pretty well, especially for a guy that with limited expectations, a 5th-round pick. He went in there, he played tough, I thought, and the offensive line as a whole, I thought played great. Andrew Thomas, a guy that some people were calling a bust going into the game, played great. I mean, he was going up against Jason Pierre-Paul. Pierre-Paul's been killing it this year. He's got 5 sacks. I know Pierre-Paul had a sack. That sack wasn't on Thomas. Dan Jones tried to take off and run with it because the interior of the pocket collapsed. I thought Andrew Thomas was phenomenal, but I want to get your take on the offensive line as a whole.
Yeah, Andrew Thomas was great. I think Bobby Skinner said maybe Andrew Thomas only plays well on Monday night because he had the really good week 1 performance and then last night on Monday night. But look, I think to call him a bust after, 6 or 7 starts is very premature. He has all the tools in the world. And I really think based on what his coaches are saying, even Mark Colombo, it's just a technique thing. And I think when you see his feet seem fast enough, he's just not good with his hands right now. And once he gets that going, he'll be fine in my opinion. I'm not too worried about him. He'll be okay. We saw Matt Perrin there for a little bit. I think he played 20-something snaps, and it's weird. The Giants do this right tackle by committee thing. We have Cam Fleming in there, and then you have Matt Perrin there, and then Shane Lemieux. I mean, he had some really good moments in this game. I think on the Wayne Gallman run, he took a guy out, so he looked really good at some points. The PFF grade was I don't know if it was just a passing blocking grade or just an overall grade. I thought it was a 12-point something grade.
I think it was I think it was pass blocking.
Yeah, which would make more sense. And I want to go back. I haven't watched the coaches film yet, so I want to actually go back and see it. But that's not a good grade at all. But still, if I feel like watching the game, he played a lot better. And the Giants as an offensive line unit, I thought played their best game, honestly. So that's against a really good defense too. Their front seven's great. So to do that against them, I think is very encouraging. And we might have got a glimpse of the offensive line in the future. I don't know what you do with Will Hernandez. Do you put Hernandez at left guard in the future and then put Lemieux at right guard, or vice versa? I don't know what the Giants are going to do because once again, I don't see Zeitler in the future plans here. He'll finish out this year, of course, because he was not traded. But I'm kind of interested to see what happens with the offensive line going forward. And Nick Gates, as you mentioned before, has looked better every week, so that's definitely looking like a keeper right now.
That block guy, Nick Gates had the block of the game. I thought for him to get out there on that play. I was like, what? That was something that was noticeable. A lot of times when you watch the offensive line during a game, you don't really talk about it. If you do, they're probably not playing well. That was a great block. But yeah, I'm with you, man. Hernandez. A lot of people were saying Hernandez is out. The offensive line's playing better. Was he the problem for Andrew Thomas? But I want to see Hernandez back in the lineup. He's still young. I still think he's got some upside. And I agree with you. I don't think Zeitler's in the long-term plans. Duchess, man, thank you very much. Says I think Daniel is a top 3 quarterback on the Giants. I'd agree with that.
Fair enough.
Probably on the. Do you think? Would you put him that high on this roster?
Riley Dixon looks good sometimes, and
Riley Dixon actually had a good game too. I didn't talk about that in my post game. He actually had a really good game.
Real quick, who was that practice squad quarterback we signed? Was it Clayton Thorson? That guy? Was it him?
Yeah, it's Clayton Thorson. Yeah.
Do we still have him or no? I'm thinking because Cooper Rush is now starting for the Cowboys. Apparently, I thought we had him, but I guess not.
I knew that we cut him, and I think we still have Clayton Thorson. Clayton Thorson. J-Man, thank you very much. Says Tomlinson, Shepard, Peppers, Ingram, Williams all have at least 4th-round pick grades, so there was value. And are you paying Williams? You shouldn't. Well, there's a question. Should you pay Leonard Williams? Leonard Williams so far this year, let's be fair, this guy's been awesome. I think he had another sack last night, right? He's got 4 now?
Yep.
And I'm weary of paying him. I've said that countless times because, I'm a Met fan, okay? And I know you're a pretty big baseball fan. I think back to Yoenis Cespedes, and I thought the same thing with him. I said, we got to pay the guy because he went on that playoff run, but he seems to be a guy that's, not the hardest worker. He's golfing. He's getting hurt while swinging, but the Mets had to pay him. And it's the same thing I have here with Leonard Williams. Leonard Williams in a contract year, he knows he's got to put up numbers to get paid. And you always get scared of bringing players back like that when they have career years on contract years. Leonard Williams played great. Leonard Williams probably been the best player on our defense outside of James Bradbury and maybe Martinez. He had a great game. I don't know if I'm going to give him $17 or $18 million a year because that's what it's going to cost, Mike.
Yeah, that's too much for me. Every man has a price. I mean, I'm willing to give him around 14 to 13 million dollars per year, but once you get in that 17, 18 range, it's like I don't know. And as you said with the Mets connection, and even think back to Jason Bay, that's a funny one. I know that wasn't a contract year, but another terrible Mets outfield contract.
Yeah.
But you think about for Leonard Williams, I mean, yeah, is he playing really well this year because it's a contract year, or is this who he actually is? I mean, I really don't know. That's like the confusing part about this. It really comes down to how much you want to pay him, but he's definitely been a big impact player this year. I think the question is with the Giants, and we mentioned this a long time ago, back in like week 1 or week 2, the Giants are probably not going to re-sign Dalvin Tomlinson and Leonard Williams. Which one would you rather keep? Because Leonard Williams will probably cost more, but give you more production. But Dalvin Tomlinson will cost less, but give you a little bit less production. So, like, what's really the Giants going to do here? It's kind of like a big question. Do you want to go with the guy with more production and more money, or the guy with a little less production and less money? So it's definitely an interesting question.
Yeah, and that'll be up to the new GM as well. Or if Gettleman's back. If Gettleman's back, Leonard Williams is staying. He traded for him. I think he's going to stay. So we'll see. And John, man, what's going on, John, man? Thank you for popping in the stream. Guys, I see the chat. Everybody's talking about it. There's these jerks that are coming. I don't know why they're doing it. Just block them. I've been blocking them. They keep typing Mets. Just block them. Ignore them and block them. John, man, what's going on, man? Thanks for popping in the stream. He says, stand up, Chris. Your Giants stink. If Wentz has another bad game against the Giants, will you pull the plug and insert Hurts? And if so, is he done? If I'm the Eagles, no. No, I'm not pulling Wentz. That's me. I don't think Jalen Hurts. I know Wentz has been playing horrible. They have so much invested in him. They gave that guy like a $35 million a year contract. No, Jalen Hurts to me sucks. I think it was a horrible draft. I'm just being honest with you. He sucks. I don't know why the Eagles drafted him when they did. I didn't think he was a great college prospect. He's not that athletic. It's not like a big benefit when they bring him in the Wildcat. If I'm an Eagles fan, no, I ride it out with Carson Wentz. You gave him that contract. No, you got to see. You have to give him the opportunity for the rest of the year.
Yeah, to me, you don't move on from Wentz. There's too much there. We've seen Carson Wentz play like an MVP before. I know it was a few years ago, but even last year, he played really well. He had like, a 27-5 touchdown interception ratio. This year, he's been wild with the turnovers, but I think there's a lot on his plate. The offensive line is not great. He's playing with Travis Fulgham and some other practice squad guys out there. I know Fulgham's been good, but still, now he gets Jalen Reagor back. Dallas Goedert got back, and he played really bad against Dallas, I know, but he's forcing things. I really think it's like a mental thing. I think he can read defense as well, but it just really comes down to him like mentally just forcing things. If he just plays like laid back and just takes what the defense gives him, I think he'll be fine. I'm not out on Carson Wentz, and I was definitely a guy that was supporting him last week, and that was definitely bad timing based on how he played. But I think he makes enough big plays in the game and can do enough with the pocket maneuvering. He's really good in the pocket, in my opinion. Sometimes hangs on to the ball a bit too long, but makes enough high-end plays and has a good enough arm to realize the upside is there. And for a guy that played like an MVP at one point, I mean, you got to ride it out with this contract. You're not going to cut him. You're not going to trade him. And as you said, Hurts is not the best guy out there, so you might as well ride with Carson Wentz, see what you got. And still, the Eagles are still the favorites to win this division. Like, they have 8 more games or so to actually fix Carson Wentz and get him back to what he was. So there's a lot of time here. They're probably going to win the division. I mean, hopefully the Giants too, but they're probably going to win it. So give the guy enough time, give him the necessary amount of starts this year, and I think he'll turn it around at some point.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't know. We'll see if he turns around. The thing that Wentz has always had is a good offensive line. And the Eagles don't have that right now. They've had a ton of injuries. The offensive line is getting worse. I don't know if he'll definitely turn around, but I definitely think you got to give him at least probably another year after this year. I mean, you committed a lot of money to that guy, and I just think Hurts was a horrible pick. Raymond, man, thank you very much, man. He says, worth it bringing in another quarterback to compete with Daniel Jones. Not this year. You only got 8 games left. At this point, you just ride it out. It's like every other position on this roster. We talk about the younger players that we want to see develop. You know, I was excited to see Carter Coughlin got a sack. He's getting playing time. Cam Brown's getting playing time. It's the same thing with Daniel Jones. There's no point in him not playing these last 8 games. We're 1-7. We're not going to the playoffs. So why wouldn't you try to use these next 8 games to hope you can mature and take a step forward into potentially being your quarterback? I don't see any point in doing it. Now, if the New York Giants don't decide to draft a quarterback and Daniel Jones doesn't get much better and the Giants are kind of skeptical, maybe then you bring in a much more accomplished backup, because everybody knows Colt McCoy is strictly a backup. Like you said, Jacoby Brissett. Brissett's a guy that if Jones isn't doing well, he's a guy that could actually step in and win you some football games.
Yeah, for sure. I think Brissett would be the perfect guy. How much does he cost? That's really the big thing. So we'll find out. But he definitely needs some competition. I mean, as you said, this year they're not going to do it. And you did mention in there the Giants are not going to make the playoffs. Hey, if they win the next 2 games, and usually
They got to win the next three. They got to win the next three.
Who they played the third?
Bengals.
Bengals. Okay, so it's very winnable. So I mean, look, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but I would not put the nail in the coffin just yet. I think this team is not that good, but based on this division, it is possible. So I want to throw it out there.
It's possible. Yeah. You're right. It is possible. Not very likely, but possible.
Right, and I don't know who else is out there on the free agent market. I mean, if you're going to bring in a quarterback to compete, you're not going to draft a guy in the first round to compete with a guy that was drafted 6th overall just a couple years ago. Like that would make no sense. So, like, if they bring in someone, it's a free agent. I don't know who else is out there, like Andy Dalton, as we said, Brissett, Dak Prescott. I mean, when you bring Dak in, he's going to be the starter. There's no competition there. So, like, I really don't know. I hope they do, though, because I think it would make the most sense.
Let me get your thoughts on Dak Prescott. Because there's been so many people that have asked me about Dak Prescott. I think it would be the dumbest idea ever. And that's just my opinion. Dak Prescott has been a quarterback his entire – and I'm not saying he's bad. He's good. But Dak Prescott has been a quarterback his entire career that's been on a rookie contract that came into a situation with a great offensive line, with great weapons, wide receivers, running backs, everything else. You'd be bringing him over to a team with not having that. And you'd have to pay him $35 to $40 million a year. The advantage in the NFL to winning Super Bowls is to have a quarterback on a rookie deal. If Dak Prescott becomes available, I don't want the New York Giants signing him. I would rather them draft their quarterback if they're moving on from Daniel Jones.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, you play to win Super Bowls. I don't view Dak Prescott as a Super Bowl quarterback. I could be wrong. He has a lot of years left in this league probably. But when you're shooting for a quarterback, like you want a guy that's like going to be like a top 5 quarterback. Like I don't want to settle for Dak Prescott. Not to say he's bad once again, but as you said, the guy had everything perfect around him. They drafted him CeeDee Lamb this year to add to an already stacked offense. So like, coming off of the injury as well, and as you said, paying him $35-40 million, you would not have that advantage of the rookie contract anymore. So I don't think it makes any sense. The only like correlation where it would make sense is Jason Garrett's connection, but is Jason Garrett even here next year? I don't know. It's trending in the right direction now, but like if he's not here, then there's no chance of it happening. So I think Dak is a good quarterback. I would not pay him $35-40 million. I think on a team like this, it would just make no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And the other thing I say is who has a more talented team over the last 2 years, the Dallas Cowboys or the New York Giants?
Gotta say the Cowboys.
You'd agree with that, right? Last year, the New York Giants won 8 games when he started. This year, they won 1. He's like 9-12 in his last 21 starts with a much more talented team. Why are you going to pay that guy $40 million to come over to a team as of now with less talent? It, to me, just doesn't add up. Draft your either stick with Jones or draft your quarterback or get a cheap stopgap. John Letourneau, man, thank you very much. I appreciate it. He says, Giants have to let Danny Dimes finish the season because he was a 6th overall pick. Unless Joe Judge thinks you all have postseason hopes, do you agree? I think regardless, even if he thinks we have postseason hopes, as bad as Jones has played, I still think he gives us the best chance to win. Colt McCoy's not a good quarterback. Colt McCoy has 5 wins to his name in the NFL in like 30 starts. Not to say Jones much better. He's got 4 wins and 20 starts, but Colt McCoy's not winning us football games, in my opinion. So I just think Daniel Jones is the guy right now. We have a guy that could step in, and if Jones ever got hurt and not embarrass us, but he's not going to be a guy that wins us football games.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually going to ask you this before I was thinking about this question. If Daniel Jones played really bad the next 2 weeks, as he kind of played last night, like that same level, a couple turnovers and just missing throws all over the place against division rivals, and the Giants are just going nowhere or 1-9 at that point, do you see a scenario where Joe Judge says, I think Colt McCoy gives us the best chance to win and pulls the plug? Because you don't want to go 1-15 this year. You want to put out the guys that give you the best chance to win. So do you see any scenario where that happens? I personally think not. I guess it wouldn't shock me if he played that bad for another couple weeks, but like, do you see any scenario where they bench the former 6th overall pick?
Nothing would shock me. I don't think that they would do it in 2 weeks. They might do it like the Giants did with Eli the last 2 weeks of the year when they were trying. I think they were trying to make the quarterback change then, and then they saw the backlash from the fan base, and then they throw it twice. Like if they came to the conclusion with 2 weeks to go in the season, Jones isn't going to be our guy, maybe I could see it then. But I don't see it happening in the next 2 weeks. I think they view Jones like they view everybody else on this roster. They think that they're evolving, they're young, and they're trying to get the most out of them. I don't think it would be in 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, I didn't think so either. But it is a bye week, and it is against 2 divisional rivals. So, like, I guess the question is possible. Like, it's in play. I just don't really see it being likely.
Yeah, I guess it's in play, but hopefully, I'm just hoping he gets better. I mean, at the end of the day, I just hope he finishes out the season and he gets a lot better. But guys, I just want to shout out Mike's channel real quick. If you haven't done so, please go over there. Miketoonice. If my mods could drop it in the chat, I would appreciate it. Going over there, subscribe to Mike. He's the great guy, does great content, and he's a great New York Giants fan. So thank you for being here, buddy. Let's talk a little bit more about the game. I guess we should talk a little bit more about Dan Jones. People are going to want to hear about that. We talked about the offensive line. Let's touch on the defense a bit, and then we'll get to Jones. What did you think about the defense last night, the way that they played overall?
Some guys that I did not expect to play well actually played well and played a role in this game. You mentioned Carter Coughlin before, got a sack. Cam Brown was in there, I think, got a sack as well. A guy like Jabril Peppers was in there playing really well, in my opinion. I thought this might have been Peppers' best all-around game as a Giant, if I'm being honest. Logan Ryan was okay in this game. I thought he had some pretty nice plays in there. James Bradbury, for the most part, was pretty good. He held Mike Evans to like 5 catches, 55 yards. I know he had a touchdown in there, but when you hold Mike Evans to that, when Chris Godwin's not in the lineup, I think that's a pretty good game against him. I'm trying to think who else. I think Dalvin Tomlinson and Leonard Williams, who we kind of touched on before, were unbelievable in this game. I didn't really hear Dexter Lawrence's name called too much. I'm sure he made somewhat of an impact. And, of course, Blake Martinez was doing his thing, created a fumble in there. So I thought the defense played pretty well. And even Isaac Yiadom, of all people, actually made a great play. Too bad. He did, yeah, for sure. I think they played a lot better than I expected. I expected this Buccaneer team to put up – I had them down for 27 points, but I figured it would be a much easier 27 than that. They held them to a lot of field goals. I thought Patrick Graham had a pretty creative scheme at some points that kind of confused the offense of the almost the Patriots, of the Buccaneers. So I thought he did a good job there, and the defensive talent is doing pretty well. I think the Giants are maybe you can argue a top 10 defense in this league, and once you get McKinney back, I mean, they're trending in the right direction. Maybe one more pass rusher, as we always say, away from being a elite defense, but they're almost there, so it's pretty exciting. How crazy is that? That we're not bullshitting when we say that. Yeah, like it's not even smoke and mirrors anymore. The New York Giants are at least a league average defense right now. Yeah. And they're a piece or two away from being a great defense, in my opinion. And it sucks if they had an average offense, they would have had 4 or 5 wins this year, which is it's terrible to think about, but it's probably true. But in my opinion, it's encouraging because I think the guy that's most responsible for it is Patrick Graham. Yeah. And Judge. But if they're back next year, and I think they both will be, and you add some more talent, like you said, maybe you add another good cornerback, I think they could use that as well. This Giants defense is really good. And we got to get better quarterback play. There's no doubt about it. But that's definitely a big step in the right direction. I thought what do you think about this is special teams? So what do you think about Joe Judge, like just sending 11 people at the punter? Like they didn't have a guy back there on 2 punts. I kind of liked it. It worked for New England last year. They blocked a lot of punts last season, I remember. So like I was a big fan of it. You're plus 12.5 on the spread. You're expected to lose. Go ahead and try and get a blocked punt. I was a big fan of it, honestly. I loved it. I didn't even mention it during the stream, but I noticed it like 2 or 3 different times. It's a great point you brought up, and it was kind of like in points in the game when you wouldn't expect it. Yeah. I loved it. The one thing I noticed at the end of the game, actually, the 2-point conversion. It was a weird formation. They had 3 tight ends in there, I think it was. They motioned Caden Smith and Toilo to the right. The one thing that was a little peculiar to me was that Tampa Bay calls a timeout. Obvious. They want to know, what they're looking at on defense. The New York Giants didn't change anything up. They did the same exact play. I would have thought maybe they switch it up a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I feel like at practices and even game plans, like a team has a go-to 2-point conversion play, and maybe the Giants just thought really highly about that play and figured it would work. And honestly, Chris, it should have worked. So we know that, right? If you threw it to the pylon and a bit earlier, the Giants go to overtime. So I can't really say like I'm disappointed in the coaching staff for that. But usually when you see like a formation, this happens in the NBA all the time. Like you'll see kind of a team's formation on an out-of-bounds play. You call a timeout, kind of readjust things, and then you'll run a different play. But the Giants went with the same thing once again. And as we said, it would have worked. It just comes down to bad execution. Yeah, should if you like it, Eli, if Jones gets that out quicker, that's a completion. Now the flag, I was furious. Like, and maybe it wasn't a pass interference. Some people argue that. At the end of the day, if Tom Brady threw that pass, that flag doesn't get picked up. How do you throw a flag on a pass interference and then pick it up like that? It boggles my mind. But I'm with you on the defense. I thought the defense was great. And they continue. We say it every week. The defense has played great all year, for the most part. They give you as much as they can. And it's Jones where we're severely disappointed. We're going to jump into him right now. Frank, man, thank you very much. Don't sleep on Zach Wilson from BYU if Jones proves not to be the guy. Zach Wilson's a guy a lot of my subscribers have talked about. Another guy with a lot of upside, plays at BYU's guy. I think this is real. He's only had like one unbelievable year, if I'm not mistaken.
But what do you think of him? Have you gotten to watch him a bit? I got to see him a little bit. I watched the game last week.
I know nothing about him. I'm interested to watch now because especially after last night's debacle with Jones, I'm hearing a lot about him and people say they like him a lot. So I'm gonna go watch him soon. But I have nothing for you right now.
Yeah, I only saw the game last week and I've seen a couple of highlight clips. I don't know a ton about him either. I know that a lot of people like him though. And he's got a high upside, high ceiling. J-Man, thank you very much, man. If Jones' ceiling is Alex Smith, time to move, guys. You don't take a guy 6th overall for a game manager. $40 million for Alex, no thanks. Trade time. J-Man, yeah, I mean, I think it's a little higher than Alex Smith, his ceiling, but I agree. He's not. I don't think he's ever going to be an elite quarterback. I never thought that after they drafted him. I think the Giants they forced themselves to take a quarterback because they knew that Eli was getting older, and they took him probably a little bit higher than they should have in a very thin quarterback draft class, but it is what it is. Now, again, I'm not forcing the pick, though. You have to be committed and think that one of those guys, even if you think he's better than Jones, he has to be significantly better for me to take a quarterback in next year's draft. He can't be a little bit better. He's got to be a guy that I am like, yes, this is the guy. I would trade up for this guy. I like him so much. That's what I have to feel about this quarterback prospect if I'm going to move on from Jones after 2 years.
Yeah, because if he's a little bit better than Daniel Jones, then, like, what are we doing here? Like, what are you shooting for at that point? And, like, as this question just said, that was the entire reason I bitched on draft night is because, like, as I said many times during that video in 2019, I was like, you're drafting a guy 6th overall that I think has a Alex Smith on KC type ceiling. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to take that 6th overall, which is why I would have rather have taken, like, I know he's not been great, but like a Drew Lock, because I feel like Drew Lock had a lot more upside and had that potential to be a top 10 quarterback. I just did not see it with Daniel Jones. And like, I was hoping to be proved wrong, but like so far we're seeing that the guy still needs a great team around him. So like, I just, it's kind of like, it's kind of bad to be proven right, but like at the same time,
I'm praying we both look like jackasses.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. I mean,
I'm hoping in 4 weeks people come back and say, "Ha ha." You know how many messages I got after last year, 8 games into the season? You know how many messages people put on my reaction video? You jackass! You don't know what you're talking about. I was smiling. I'm like, this is great. I want to be the biggest jackass of all time. Yeah. I want Daniel Jones to prove me wrong. Okay.
I had a lot of comments that went back to my 2019 draft reaction and were saying that I was stupid, and like now it's like kind of reverting back to like I was right. It's really weird how all this is playing out, which is why you should give like draft class like probably 2 or 3 years to play out before you actually make assumptions. But it's crazy like how much things have changed from year to year about this, how it went from the worst pick ever to like a lot of people are like, oh, this is like the greatest value ever. Great job by Gettleman. And now people are like off the bandwagon once again. So it's just insane how much things have changed here. But as you said, I hope we're both proven wrong. It would benefit this team greatly if Jones was the guy. But just based on what I've seen so far, it's like really hard to believe in that right now.
Yeah, listen, I'll see it when I believe it. And that's always been my approach with Jones. I've never been too high, and I don't think I've ever been too low. Some people will tell me that I got a comment yesterday. They're like, I can't take your Daniel Jones bashing. I'm going to unsubscribe. I'm like, Daniel Jones bashing? Did you watch Bad Dog's video? Like, I didn't even say that we need to move on from Daniel Jones. I said that I'm going to give him the next 8 games, but he's not playing well. I think that I've tried to be as fair as I can with him. But, yeah, I mean, I'd be lying to you guys right now if I told you that he's definitely going to be a franchise quarterback. He's not. Listen, I don't know the exact statistic, but I think he's got the most turnovers in the first 20 games in the history of football. I told that tied with Ryan Leaf. I told that to Mike before I went live. Maybe I misread the statistic. Don't quote me on that. The guy has 4 wins. 3 of them came against Washington, one of which came in overtime. Another one came in which off with 3 missed field goals. I mean, I'd be lying to you if I told you the guy's going to be a franchise quarterback. He could be. Maybe he gets better over these next 8 games, but I'm definitely not ready to tell you that he is.
No, I've had comments like that as well. I mean, a lot of people on Twitter as well, just like, oh, you're a Daniel Jones hater, go root for a different team. And I'm like, I'm just trying to be realistic. Like, I hope to be proven wrong. But like when I decided to make a YouTube and commentate about this team, I wanted to be like realistic and talk about things that were from my heart and my belief. I didn't want to just be like, oh, the Giants are great. Everything they do is awesome. Like, I was just going to be honest. And like, I do hope we're wrong. Of course, there's 8 games left to prove us wrong here. Maybe more if he's back next year. But like, as we said so far, it's just like, how can you believe in this at this point? Because nothing's changing. It's the same mistake over and over and over. And it's like, you have to mature at some point.
Yeah. And I'll be fair. Like, Eli Manning definitely had mistakes. He definitely had mistakes, and people were pointing that out last night, and that's fair. Eli Manning made a lot of bad mistakes. But one thing I'll say about Eli Manning, I lived through it. I watched it. Second year, Eli Manning was having great comebacks. He had 2 or 3 great comebacks that year. He was bringing his team, the Eagles game. I mean, Eli Manning showed you that he was I think Daniel Jones is almost a victim of his success in his rookie year, because I think it set the expectations too high, and now he's regressing. And like you said, some of it definitely had to do with the fact that he beat up on bad teams. Eli Manning sucked his first year, and his second year, he throws 24 touchdowns, 17 picks, and people are like, okay, we're starting to see some growth. And even though he did have boneheaded mistakes, the guy was winning football games for one. He definitely had a better team, but you saw the promise in him. He was making really good throws at big points in the game. He had some great 2-minute drives. Daniel Jones, for the most part, he's coming up short when he gets the opportunity. So I get why people are down on Daniel Jones. You have to be fair when you evaluate the team. G-Man Rising, man, thank you very much, man. Jones going off the next 3 games means nothing to me. It would be the same as last year. He had bad decision-making, is masked against bums, but not a good team. The Bengals have a really bad defense. Washington's defense is decent. And the Eagles' defense is decent. It's not on the level of the teams we talked about. The Dolphins' defense and the Jets' defense last year was horrible. Listen, man, I just want to see some consistency. Play well these next couple of games, and maybe that translates into something else. We still got 8 games. I'm not throwing in the white flag yet.
Yeah, I mean, I get what this guy is saying. I feel like if I saw 3 great games in a row, I kind of feel like I don't know if I fully buy in, because I kind of know what Daniel Jones is at this point. Now, he has to do it first, of course. Playing 3 great games in a row is not easy, but if he did it, I probably think, because I feel like we know who Daniel Jones is at this point. If he improves, that's great. And I know it's only 21 starts into his career or something, so it's a bit harsh, but that's kind of the reality of the NFL these days. That's like kind of, we speed up the time of like these guys are supposed to mature. It used to be like 3 years, 4 years you would get. Now it's like, if you're not good by year 2, it's like you're out of here. And same thing for Sam Darnold with the Jets. I know he's not been great either, but he's probably gone too, it seems like.
That's the way the NFL is now with the rookie contract for the quarterback. It's a microwave league. Whatever I just want to pull this up. Stop comparing Jones and Eli, LMAO, not even the same. I'm not comparing them as players. I'm comparing their situations. I'm comparing both of them in their second years. That's the same. Eli Manning showed progression his second year so far. Jones, all not his fault. New scheme and everything else. There's factors. No preseason. I get that. But now we're going into week 9. Has regressed. So that's all I'm talking about. I'm not talking about them in terms of prospects. JL, man, thank you very much. I appreciate it. The Giants have historically been patient with quarterbacks. If he gets no better, I bet he stays. He might. The New York Giants historically have been a patient organization, but I will say, Mike, in recent history, not so much at maybe the players, they haven't been nearly as patient as they've been in the past.
Yeah, and for how bad things have been here, you think John Mara's had enough by now? I'm sure he's tired of it. Like, why would you? It just comes down to losing too many games. Like, enough is enough at some point. I think everyone has a breaking point, and John Mara hates being embarrassed. And if he feels that that Daniel Jones is not his guy, then for what reason wouldn't he fire Dave Gettleman? And for what reason wouldn't the next GM want to move on from him? So it's all realistic, honestly.
I missed Bavit's super chat. Thank God I saw he say something. I was able to pull it up. One of my best trolls. He says, "Can you stop selling my son black tar heroin?" Bavit, I'll try my best. No, I'm not a drug dealer. I'm not. I think we found the Entertainer Talking Drugs account. It might be Bavit. Did I miss this one? I don't remember. Jones going off the next 3 games means nothing. Oh no, we already read that one.
Yeah, we saw. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure I got all of them. So there you go, Bavit. I did read it, and I will try my best to stop selling your son.
I will say though, I heard someone call WFAN today, and I'm tired of myself of hearing people say that Eli Manning did it, Peyton Manning did it. Like, when you're comparing him to Eli and Peyton Manning, guys that were like, what are they, first overall picks? Did Peyton go first or no? I think he did, right?
Peyton went first.
Yeah, right. So you're comparing them to surefire first overall picks. The Giants traded a lot to get Eli Manning here. And the arm talent is so much different. The pocket presence was so much different, and just the anticipation. Those were better quarterbacks. Not to say Jones can't be the next Eli Manning. Sure, maybe, but I just don't like the comparison because it's different situations. And I feel like Peyton and Eli were a lot more talented. So I get where people are coming from, but to me, it's just not the same type of player.
It's just natural to compare them because they both played for the Giants. Yeah. But no, I agree with you. Eli Manning and him are completely different quarterbacks. I think Jones needs to play more like Ryan Tannehill. He needs to. He's a guy that should be a game manager that can make plays with his legs, and he can make some throws when they need to be made. That's what he should be, and he's playing like he's Eli Manning. He's playing like he's Brett Favre. Can't be playing like that. Not when you're Daniel Jones, at least in my opinion. Mike Francesa, again, man. Mike, man, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it, man. Absolute, unbelievable
Mike's
figure.
On.
He says Gettleman is the only one who has ties to Jones. Mara to me doesn't feel the same affection as he did with Eli. I hope we get Lance. Sky's the limit. Yeah, if they fire Gettleman, obviously, depending on where we're picking and depending on how the new GM feels about the quarterback prospects, yeah, I would tell you it's obviously much more likely we take a quarterback if we fire Gettleman. If Gettleman stays, we're not taking a quarterback.
Yeah, the love affair with Eli was real. I thought he was here a couple of years later than he should have been. But yeah, as the guy said, Mike Francesa said, the upside for Lance is unreal, and I would definitely get 100% behind that.
That's your guy, man. You're completely bought into Trey.
I'm really starting to buy in. I like him.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna have to do a little bit more research. That's your guy. So if you're a two, you're taking him. Probably, right now, and that could change over the last 8 weeks. But
it could change, yeah. But right now, it's either going to be take him or trade down. Probably is going to be my answer to that.
All right, Watch Madison. Thank you very much. Realistically, Fields to get and trading DJ for. We're not trading DJ for.
No, not getting the first. No,
and it's not. It's not even. It's any quarterback. If you were to trade any quarterback, usually on the third year of their rookie deal, you're not going to get that much because. Especially when they're drafted as high as Daniel Jones was. If they're drafted in the third or fourth round, you're not paying him much. Jones, you're paying $10 million a year, and he's coming off a sophomore slump. You might get a third-round pick. You're not going to get much for Daniel Jones based on his contract and based off the fact that you're assuming he would have regressed.
I think fourth-round pick in return for Jones is the most realistic thing, but maybe third round. And people probably think the the Cardinals got a second for Josh Rosen. He sucks, but it was only after 1 year for him, and I think he was a more highly touted prospect than Daniel Jones was. So the circumstances are a bit different there. I think Jones is going to have a lot more starts than Rosen did, which is the easy comparison to make. But honestly, if they watch Jones play for what will be 28, 29 starts at that point in his career and nothing changes, why would you as an NFL team give up a first-round pick for him? To me, that would make no sense, even a second-round pick. So I think if the Giants can get a third-round pick for him, if they do in fact trade him, I think will be a pretty good return and good value for the Giants. But right now, I think a fourth-round pick is probably the most realistic thing for him.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you're getting much because of the whole situation. G-Man Rising, man, thank you very much. Says DJ is the Frank Ntilikina of the Giants. We're hoping he can become something he's not. Give him 8 games or get a new quarterback, draft or stopgap next year. I actually like Frank Ntilikina. I don't think Frank Ntilikina is ever going to be great. I think the Knicks are going to have figured out what Ntilikina is, but I get what you're saying. Knicks fans,
great defender, Frank Ntilikina.
I think he's a good role player, but I don't think he's ever going to be a guy that you put out there 35 minutes at the point guard position. But it's a good comparison because Knicks fans were saying that this guy was going to be, the next great thing, and they said the same thing with Kevin Knox. Kevin Knox. I remember when the Knicks drafted him. I had people on my channel telling me that he was going to be the next Kevin Durant. Yeah, Knicks fans are crazy. But as far as that comparison goes, I see it, but I actually like Frank. Let's read the chat a little bit. Let's see what you guys want to see. Daniel Jones will be an awesome quarterback in the right situation. If they trade him, they will be making a big mistake. New England, Colts, San Francisco would love to have DJ.
Oh, San Francisco would like it, yeah.
What do you think they're going to do with Garoppolo?
I feel like his contract's easy to get out of. I mean, this might be crazy. I think a Garoppolo for Matt Ryan swap would not be the craziest thing that happened this offseason. I really think it's possible based on Matt Ryan and Shanahan having all that success in that Super Bowl run for the Falcons. That's something I can see happening. But look, if they don't think Garoppolo's the guy, plus injury prone, he missed the entire 18 season with the ACL injury, basically. If they feel he's not the guy, then this is a really talented roster. Don't F around and waste your time on Garoppolo if he's not the guy. I mean, I've always liked Jimmy, but he can't stay healthy and he has not played that well this year. So if he's not the guy, then I think a Matt Ryan trade or something like that can actually be in play.
Maybe Stafford. Could you see Stafford getting traded? Yeah. Depending on where the Lions are picking?
I like Stafford a lot, so I think that'd be a great fit. I mean, it depends where the Lions are picking, who's going to fill in for him, things like that. You don't just trade Stafford and don't replace him. They're not going to put David Blau or something out there.
No. If you're picking top 5.
If they got Justin Fields, for instance, and just, Stafford was still there, you might have to move him. I think he has a big contract as well, but if you move Garoppolo and kind of you swap that salary in a way, kind of because you can't just trade one big contract for not another one. It's going to go over the cap space. But if they can somehow make that happen and maybe Garoppolo's a stopgap for a guy like Fields, and then you cut Garoppolo the next offseason, I could see something like that happening too.
I'm going to give you an interesting name, actually. I just thought about this, and then we're going to get to Nick DeWick. Who grew up in the Bay Area as a quarterback? How about Aaron Rodgers?
Oh yeah, he wanted to go to the 49ers. I remember. Yeah, that'd
be interesting with that offensive coordinator. Could you imagine that? Nick DeWick, man, thank you very much, man. He says, Hangover Tuesday on my birthday. Well, I'm sorry that you have a hangover Tuesday, but the New York Giants played their asses off. They couldn't find a way to win a football game like that. That's been the moral of the story the last 3 games or so. But happy birthday to you, my man, Nick the Wick, man. Hopefully you enjoy it, buddy.
Happy birthday, Nick. Sorry we couldn't win for you.
Yeah, and hopefully your next birthday we start winning games.
Yeah.
Ace of Spades says, if the Giants don't draft a quarterback this draft, who's coming out in 2022? I don't want to be in quarterback hell. There's been a couple of names people have told me about. I have not done a ton of research. There was one guy that a lot of people said is going to be number 1 overall. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm not good with this stuff. All I know is that the Arch Manning kid, but he's still in like high school. So
that's 2026.
That. Yeah.
There's some Giants fans that just want to tank till 2026 to make sure they get Manning. But there is supposedly Ace of Spades from what I heard. I can't remember the guy's name. I'm not a huge college guy. That's supposed to be a really good quarterback prospect, but I don't think it's as heavy as this year. Let's see what we got here. Morty, man, thank you very much, man. Giants are so close, not unreasonable to think they win their next 3 games. Also, did you see? Yeah, I made a video on this. Also, did you see? Coward said that he's 80% sure Jones is the right guy. Yeah, Morty, I actually just made a video on that before we went live. I saw that. I don't know if I agree with it. I'm kind of definitely more closer to 50-50, but I got to see the rest of the year for Daniel Jones. But what I did agree with him strongly about is the comparison between last year's Miami Dolphins team and this year's New York Giants team. I agree strongly with that because of the whole coaching situation. I've talked about this probably with you before. I talk about it all the time whenever I'm on. I mean, you got 2 guys coming over from the Patriots, limited coaching experience, and a young team with limited expectations coming in, and the team fought really hard for Miami. They started 0-7, but they fought hard. They scrapped, they clawed. The team got better as the season progressed. I completely agree with Coward on that comparison between the New York Giants and last year's Dolphins team.
Was the name, is it Sam Howell from North Carolina?
That's it. Okay. Sam Howell. That's the guy.
For this question, though, someone actually tagged me in like Twitter about this Colin Cowherd video, and I want to watch it later. But now that I'm thinking about it, the connection kind of makes sense. As you said, they started off 0-7. They finished the year, I think, the Dolphins 5-4, which is great. But they also had Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick's not Daniel Jones. Way different points in their career. Then they drafted Tua this past offseason. So it's kind of a different timeline in a way. If Cowherd said he's 80% sure Jones is the right guy, I don't agree with that whatsoever. I kind of, you didn't watch my video yet from yesterday, but I kind of announced like I'm definitely just out on Jones. Like I still hope to be proved wrong, but like I've kind of seen enough at this point where I kind of feel he's not the guy. 80% is pretty high though. I mean, Colin Cowherd's been wrong before. He's been right before as well. I mean, hopefully he's right.
Like we say every time we do this, we have opinions. And if you don't put, if you're not wrong close to half the time, you're not putting your honest opinion out there. You're just trying to be agreeable with everybody. So I agree with you. I'm not completely done, but I'm definitely much less than 80%. I'm with you on that. G-Man, man, thank you very much, man. Coward said the Giants should draft Fields 2 weeks ago. I know he did. I don't know did he say they should draft Fields or did he say he was just done with Jones? Maybe he said they should draft Fields also, but I did hear, going into the year, he said he loved Jones, then he said he was done with Jones, now he's 80% sure. To be fair, in the video, he didn't say he was 80% sure he could win a Super Bowl or that he'd be a great quarterback. He said he was 80% sure that they could win the division with Daniel Jones. So that doesn't necessarily mean he thinks that he's a great quarterback. He might mean that this division's so bad with the team around Jones improving week in and week out, if he could even become a okay quarterback.
That's way different. Yeah.
Yeah, he thinks they can win the division. Nick the Wick, man, thank you so much, man, for the super sticker, man. I really appreciate it, man. And again, happy birthday to you, my man. Let's see what was the sticker, just so sometimes they're funny. I like to laugh. He says, next time. All right, Nick the Wick, man. Have a great one, buddy. Next time. I just want to make Roldy. I love Roldy, man. I hope you're doing well, Roldy, man. Thank you for popping in. Great supporter of yours as well. Tannehills of the world don't win Super Bowls. Stud quarterbacks do. That's what I want as my quarterback. Get with the modern day NFL, Chris. Roldy, I think I am with the modern day NFL. You watch my channel. I think I've said countless times that I don't believe in extending quarterbacks to their second contracts unless they're a top 5 quarterback in the league. I'm gonna tell you this right now. I'll fast forward to the future, guys. I'm not gonna be forced to extending Daniel Jones to a second contract unless he really takes a gigantic leap, which I probably don't see. I'm gonna fast forward for you guys. In 3 years, I'm probably not gonna want Daniel Jones to stay with the New York Giants. But if you're not sold, I'm not for drafting a quarterback this year unless you feel he is leaps and bounds better than Daniel Jones. And if they feel that way, I could understand it. I'm not gonna be a guy that bashes the pick if they feel that way. But I don't want them to force a pick.
I agree with all that for sure. I'm trying to think like which quarterbacks in the past like 15 years or so that were not considered elite have won Super Bowls. I mean, Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
Do you want to put Eli in there or no?
First time Eli, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
First time. I'm gonna tell you what. By name he was, but Peyton Manning in 2015 was not elite.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Peyton Manning might be the worst quarterback ever to win a Super Bowl. He was that bad that year. You know, so there's been a couple, but in recent history, there's been less. You go back to the 2000 Ravens, obviously Dilfer and Brad Johnson with the Bucks, but those are the two names that pop off the top of my head. 2007 Eli definitely wasn't elite. He played elite in the playoffs. Flacco played elite in the playoffs, but he wasn't elite. And Peyton Manning was horrible in 2015.
Yep.
So those three guys. But you're right. Generally, you got to have a top 10 quarterback to be able to compete and win a Super Bowl. V-Dub, man, thank you very much. Jets GM said Darnold is the quarterback of the future. Lies. Yeah, I think he's lying.
Yeah. Does he mean Trevor Lawrence or does he mean Sam Darnold? I mean,
no. He said Sam Darnold is the quarterback.
Yeah.
You say, okay.
Meant to say, yeah.
I think and he didn't even draft Darnold. So,
yeah, exactly. That's the thing. That's what I said. I made a video about Darnold. That's the main point, that he did not draft him. I mean, what the Jets did was asinine how they have a draft. I know it was the year before they drafted with McCagnon and then fired him right after the draft. Just one of the dumbest things I've seen, but it's the Jets for you. That's something that the Knicks would do. Well, I guess it's something that the Jets would do too. Watch Medicine, man. Thank you very much, man. He says, here's a weird scenario. Dallas gets a top 3 pick and drafts Fields or Lance, and Dax comes. People have told me about that. Watch Doctor. And you know what? I won't completely rule it out. You know, it's exactly what Indianapolis did when Peyton Manning got hurt. They drafted Andrew Luck because they got the first pick. If Dallas gets a top 3 pick and they feel one of those guys is great, yeah, Dak will probably be away from Dallas. But you know what? It's possible. I mean, Dak might want to stick with that, but I don't see. The New York Giants don't even have a ton of cap space. The team that makes a lot of sense for me, if I'm Dak Prescott, I look around the league. Indianapolis Colts. They got a ton of cap space. Phillip Rivers is like 90. If they have the ability to sign Prescott to a 3 or 4 year deal, kind of like the Vikings did with Cousins, that to me is a great fit. A great offensive line. They've got emerging weapons. That makes a lot more sense than the New York Giants for me. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't really see the Giants thing happening. As I said, the only thing that would make sense is the Jason Garrett connection. But really, I think, as you said, the Colts would be a great fit if the Niners can fit him on the cap, which probably is not likely. But if that can happen, like a great situation. I just don't think the Giants are the right situation for a Dak Prescott type. I just don't think it would make sense.
Yeah, I just don't see it. Lax, man, thank you, man, so much, man. Lawrence is the only quarterback they should even consider. If they took any other quarterback in the first round, it would be a wasted draft pick. Too many other holes.
Now, is this him saying that every quarterback in this upcoming draft not named Trevor Lawrence is not going to be good? Because that's kind of
I think his mindset is that, like, Trevor Lawrence is far and away the best prospect, and he's far and away the most convincing quarterback prospect, the guy that you can't pass up. And the other guys, he's kind of like, I could probably get a Fields next year.
When I see the word wasted, it makes me feel like you're just saying these other quarterbacks in the draft are just not good. Like, that's kind of the way I look at it. Maybe I'm not looking at it right, but when you say like you're wasting
yeah, I think it's hard to say it'd be a wasted first round. It's a wasted first round pick if they don't pan out, and that sets your franchise back even further because you had an opportunity to build the rest of the roster. Like I said, don't force the pick.
But what if they draft Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and they end up being top 10 quarterbacks in football? Then that's not a waste. You know,
it's like a great pick. Yeah, you have to. If they decide to take a quarterback, regardless of how we feel as fans, you have to give them. Just like I did, I gave Daniel Jones an opportunity. You gave I'm still giving him an opportunity. I hated the pick. I thought it was a horrible pick. So if they decide to go with a quarterback, you have to trust the organization and hope he works out. But I'm of the mindset and always have been that in a perfect world, I want Jones to progress these last 8 games and try to fill in the rest of the roster. And if it doesn't work out, then go get your quarterback the next year. That's been my mindset. Klein, thank you very much, man. Given how young we are, we should give Jones another year and spend our top 2 picks on offensive line. We get another year to evaluate Jones and other young guys. If Jones busts, we got a young offensive line for the new quarterback. I completely agree with trying to fix the offensive line as much as possible. I don't know if I would draft 2, maybe 1. I definitely think we could use another one, whether it's a center, maybe another tackle, depending how you feel about Perrin, maybe another guard, whatever it may be. I think they could definitely use 1 more young offensive lineman, and I definitely think they need a playmaker. We say that every week at the wide receiver position. If you're sticking with Jones, you have to go all in. Like, You have to go all in and give him everything you possibly can this offseason to see if he's the guy. You have to get him a premier wide receiver, and you have to make sure that offensive line's good to go. That 100% if you're sticking with Jones.
Right, yeah. When I was reading this, I was like, where's wide receiver and where's pass rusher? I mean, taking 2 offensive linemen, I mean, I'm all for offensive line depth. And as you said, maybe take 1 pick, a center or a tackle, but to take 2 of them, and I'm assuming that means like the first 2 picks, first 3 picks, early picks on them, it wouldn't make too much sense to me. There's other holes to fill on this team. I do want the wide receiver 1. And as you said, if they're going to bring Jones back for year 3 on a rookie contract when you have to have the good team around them. And if not, it's going to end up like the Sam Darnold situation this year in his year 3. Like you're going to put a crappy team around the kid. He has no chance to succeed. But if you actually give Jones a wide receiver 1 and give him a really good offensive line, then we'll actually get to see who the real Daniel Jones is. I feel like we have seen that already, but maybe there's another side of Daniel Jones we haven't seen yet. But I feel like 2 is too much, but maybe 1 offensive line pick I can definitely live with. Yeah,
I think, like you said, we need a playmaker on both sides of the ball. We need a playmaker at the wide receiver position. We need a playmaker, whether it's a elite corner or a elite edge. We need
Xavier McKinney. I think it could be him. We'll see.
I sure hope so. I'm looking. Yeah. You think he's going to play this week?
This week? Is he?
I think he's eligible. I think he's eligible to come back this week.
I thought it was like week 11 or so.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure it's this week he's eligible.
That would be great. I haven't heard anything about it, honestly. But
I think they'll wait till after the bye, if I had to guess. I think they'll wait.
Yeah, probably.
Ryan, man, thank you very much, man. Most other quarterbacks in the league give us about 3 or 4 wins right now. You know, I was talking about this in my Discord today. They definitely have more wins if Eli's still the quarterback this year, even old Eli. Because Eli doesn't lose that game last night. I don't think so. Probably not. I'm maybe 2, maybe 3 wins. But most quarterbacks, I think they have at least 1 more win with most quarterbacks in the league right now.
That game last night was set up for a game manager just not to lose. Like all you needed was not to turn the ball over, and they win that game. I think Eli Manning, if he was conservative in that game and was, the veteran himself, where he was not turning the ball over, I think the Giants definitely win that game. So you're probably right.
Yeah, G-Man Rising, man, thank you very much, man. Not true. Lawrence is actually pretty overhyped. Joe Cladd has actually started to see people see some alarming holes in his game. He's no Andrew Luck, people. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I've heard both sides of it. I think Lawrence is great. I think he'll be a top 10 quarterback in the league one day. I mean, if you go to the Jets, anything could happen. You could be a bottom 10 quarterback in the league in that situation. But Lawrence, from a talent standpoint, is just crazy good. I'm interested to see what the holes are exactly. I know he's not the perfect prospect, and I know, being the next Andrew Luck's not easy, but I guess, I gotta have to look into it more. I mean, I have not watched a crazy amount of Trevor Lawrence, but I've seen enough to know he's going to be really good in the NFL. He just has to go to the right team. And as I said, if you go to the Jets, anything can happen at that point. But I feel like Trevor Lawrence, just like how I felt about Joe Burrow, is going to be a good player, So I'm pretty excited for him. It's going to be interesting to see how his career turns out, but I think he'll be fine.
I think he's going to be really good, too, from everything that you hear. But like you said, a lot of it is situation. You go to the Jets.
They ruin people, yeah.
They ruin people. So, but I agree with you. I think Lawrence will be a really good prospect. You said you had to go at 6:15, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're going to go for 8 more minutes, guys. Then we're going to close it out. I just want to say thank you to everybody for being here. Thank you guys so much for all your support on both of our channels. I absolutely love this Giants community. We're going to get to sit back and watch the election tonight. I'll probably go to bed. But I just can't say thank you guys so much for all the support you guys always show us. And please go over to Mike's channel. We're going to be over there next Tuesday around the same time doing the same thing. So going over there, check them out. Lax, man, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. He says, what I meant was unless Lawrence is there, I'd rather stick with Jones over Fields or Lance. That's fair. I mean, that's a fair take. I definitely understand that. I'm kind of still with that take. I may change I'm leaving it open for interpretation. Take a linebacker, or corner, or wide receiver, or pass rusher. Then if Jones isn't improved, take a quarterback the year after. And that's been my take all along. So I'm with you. I'm with you. But to me, I need to see Jones improve a little bit. He can't be playing like this for the next 8 games. At that point, I think I'd be completely on board with taking a quarterback. Right. Christopher, man, thank you very much, man. He says, how do you get Jones to not try to do too much? As that's why he turns the ball over so much. Throw the ball away. I was listening, Mike, to the press conference after the game. I don't know if you got an opportunity it was on the Giants YouTube page. And every reporter asked Jones the same exact question like 8 times. They all said that. They all said, we hear that you're being coached up to not turn the ball over, to not force throws. Why aren't you not, why do you continue to do it? And Jones just kind of like, I got to get better. He just gave the same bland answer.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer for that. I mean, I don't know, maybe as you mature, you learn not to take shots. I don't know, but he can't continue to do that because he's got to be more of a game manager. That's what he should be in the NFL if he's going to be a good quarterback. And maybe if he does learn that, he could be a very successful quarterback in the NFL. He can't turn the ball over at the rate that he's been, and he's going to continue to until such time he learns that's not the type of quarterback he is. He's not a gunslinger.
Yeah, that's what I wanted coming into the year. I expected the turnovers to be cut down a good amount, but to have Jones play more conservative this year and turn the ball over just as much, you can't live with that. It's just that's not a winning formula in the NFL. If Jones actually was a good game manager and was not turning the ball over as much and really played into his run game and let his defense do the dirty work, I think this team could have, as we said before, 4 or 5 wins, 3 or 4 wins or something like that. But he's just been throwing games away this year, which you just cannot have from your quarterback.
Yeah, MYG31, thank you very much. He's got a YouTube channel too. He says the O-line played well last night. They did. The O-line played their best game of the year as far as I'm concerned. They played well.
Great defense too, which is important. Yeah.
They played well in a couple other games. I am not still optimistic about Jones, K-Base. Maybe you could easily be misinterpreting what I'm saying. I'm at a point now where I'm like, we got 8 games left in the season. Why not see what the guy could do over the last 8 games? What does it hurt? I mean, what else can we do? And if he plays much better over these last 8 games, well, then I might go into the offseason and say, yeah, I'll give him another year. But if he continues to play at this rate, no, I'm not optimistic about Daniel Jones. He needs to get much better. He can't be turning the ball over 2 or 3 times a game. Can't happen. Needs to get much better over these last 8 games.
Yep, you might as well let it play out. But as we said before, I don't think I can see Jones really sway my opinion too much. I'm more in that boat of like we probably need another quarterback here next year. But as we said, 8 games left. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. And Clutch Ball T, go check him out too. Noah's a great supporter. He says Jay Fields has an ugly throwing motion, in my opinion. Yeah, you've said that to me a couple times, Noah. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be skeptics either way. I probably would side more with Lance if I was talking about one of the other 2 quarterback prospects. From what I've read and seen on film, I haven't analyzed them a ton yet, but from what I've seen, I'd probably side more with Lance. The Hub, man, thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. Shout out to the GOATs. I am sad. Hub, man, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. He's got a channel too. Go check him out. And Mike's the GOAT. So go over there, check him out, man. I appreciate Mike for being on here. But no, man, Hub, man, thank you so much, man. I think all Giants fans are sad right now. So, happy in one way and sad in another. Like I should say happy, but encouraged in one way. And sad in
encouraged.
Yeah. I think we're encouraged about Judge. I think we're encouraged about the defense. I think we're encouraged about everything but the quarterback and the fact that we lost. But the quarterback, I think most people are sad about right now.
Yeah.
Sure. G-Man Rising, thank you very much, man. The issue that can't be fixed is hesitating. His indecisiveness is similar to a scorer in basketball. It's bad habits that can't be broken in the NFL. Lack of confidence. Maybe so. He makes a lot of first free throws, doesn't look off his wide receivers. I've noticed that a lot. And I think he tries to fit the ball too much into tight windows. I noticed that in his rookie year. I remember watching games during his rookie year and saying he should have had a lot more than 12 picks. You know, I remember him making a lot of throws where I was like, so the stats were misleading going into the year. They were, if we're being honest with ourselves. Listen, I hope he can break them, but I understand the skeptics. I'll say that.
Right. Yeah, the indecisiveness is it's something that's true. There was a play last night, apparently. As I said, I didn't watch the coach film yet, so I didn't see the whole field. But apparently he was looking down Slayton, who was open, but then decided to go for like that. I guess it was a check down to Shepard that was intercepted. So, like, if he didn't pull the trigger there and he was open, that's a bad look. You cannot hesitate in a situation like that.
And Mike, man, thank you so much, man. DJ's problem is mental. I want to see the stupid turnovers stop. I think the turnovers aren't caused by bad throws. It's hero ball. I think some of it is definitely hero ball.
Yeah,
I agree with that. And maybe he has to get better at that. If he gets better at that, maybe I will change my tune. And hopefully he does. He's got 8 games to do it. And hopefully he does. And I think he could. I think he's smart enough. The guy went to Duke. But I think a lot of it is hero ball. I think it's a lot of him trying to put the team on his back because he knows he doesn't have the best of teams. He's trying to make plays. He knows he's playing for his job. But you got to be smarter than that. And he's got 8 games to do it. Let's hope he can. From an optimistic standpoint, I suppose he's gotten better at the fumbling issues. He's not fumbling near at the same rate. But now it's the interception, and it's trying to force balls, and it's playing hero ball.
Some quarterbacks can play hero ball consistently and do it at a high level. I just don't see Jones as one of those guys. He'll do it once in a while because he has that added rushing upside, which definitely helps, and he could run 21 miles per hour. But I just don't see Jones being that guy like a Russell Wilson or Pat Mahomes outside the pocket that just can consistently make these crazy plays off script. So I don't see it happening all the time.
Yeah, and Craig says, what's your opinion on DJ's mechanics? Well, you're the film guy. I'll let you start there.
He's got I don't know. It's kind of like a weird, a long motion. Like he just puts the ball out completely. Can't really show her like this and kind of holds it down, which I know you kind of have to do in a way, but it's kind of like a long release, which, sometimes isn't great and gives a defender an extra chance to get a fumble, which we have seen before. But I don't know, about his whole mechanics. I guess it's not the worst in the world. He follows through, which is good and things like that. I don't know if this is part of mechanics, but we've seen him stare down the same guy too much. So that's not the best thing. But I guess from a throwing motion standpoint, it's not the worst thing in the world. I do wish he had more arm strength, but that's a whole different thing. So I guess, throwing motion wise, it's not too bad to me.
I don't think his mechanics are noticeably bad. But like you said, I just don't. I think he makes poor decisions because a lot of it does have to do with hero ball. And I think that he forces throws that he's not capable of making because he does lack elite arm strength. Donnelly, thank you very much, man. What need do the Giants have, and how would you fix them? All right, we're not even going to talk about the quarterbacks. That obviously, that could be a need. Obviously, outside of that, I mean, it's the same things every week we talk about. You need an edge rusher. You need a corner. Possibly a coverage linebacker definitely couldn't hurt. Maybe one more offensive lineman, depending on how these guys develop, and definitely a playmaker at the wide receiver position. I think those are their premium needs right now. Though that's what they need to fill. How would I fix them? Free agency and the draft. The only two ways you can. Maybe make a trade, but I'd probably, if we're going edge, I'd probably lean to try to fix that in free agency. There's a lot of edge guys. There's not a lot of top prospects at that position, at least as of now, according to the experts. Wide receiver, I'd probably try to fix in the draft, possibly in the second round. That's probably what I'm leaning, Mike.
I agree with you. Yeah, there's always explosive and fun and exciting players in every draft. And the Giants, I think they need a couple more explosive and exciting playmakers that they don't have right now. I know Slayton's that guy. Shepard's more of a possession receiver. Then you have Evan Engram, who's good sometimes, but they don't really have that. And you talk about the Chiefs offense, like a Mecole Hardman, a Tyreek Hill type, and just a guy that can just take the top off of defense, which is not the easiest thing to find. But the Giants had
even
the
Ravens with Duvernay.
Duvernay's another one. Yeah,
they got him in what did he go in the third round this year, fourth round?
I don't even know, but yeah, he was not a high pick.
He wasn't a high pick. That guy, we could definitely use a guy like that.
If we can get our hands on a guy like that, I think it would help this offense a lot. So hopefully we do. But we need a cornerback too, pass rusher, and I do hope we kind of address that in free agency. As you said, there are a lot of good edge rushers and defensive ends in this free agency class. So rather than waste the draft capital on it, then I think if you can do it in free agency, it'd probably be a better idea.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you. It's 6:17. We're gonna head out, but I'm gonna say one more time before we leave. Please go over to Miketoonice. Please subscribe. I'm looking forward to continuing the show, doing it over there. I think he's a great guy. He's got a great channel over there. Let me just read this real quick. I think people are overreacting to his overthrows yesterday because of recency bias. It's the first time they let him air it out since last year. They've been letting him air it out a little bit more as the season progressed. I agree in terms of the frequency. It's been the most that they let him air it out. I definitely agree with that. He's probably threw at least 6 or 7 times down the field last night. So I agree in terms of the frequency. Maybe they're overreacting a bit. Maybe on a couple of throws, you could argue maybe he was trying to throw the left shoulder of Slayton, and Slayton went to the outside. That's possible. Another one was in the end zone. People said that Slayton kind of let up, and that was more on Slayton than Jones. Maybe it's not all on Jones with every throw, and that's probably the case. Probably not all of it is on Jones. And he is pretty accurate with the deep ball. I think it's more his arm strength. That's what I'm questionable about. His accuracy, it's never really been that big of a problem, at least in my opinion, on deep throws. It's more so the strength. And to me, the biggest problem for me is the hero ball. That's the biggest problem for me.
Yep, I agree. I mean, I have a lot of concerns, honestly, for the deep accuracy. I know you're not really too concerned about his accuracy, but the arm strength, I think we're both in agreement in, is definitely a concern for us, and that's something that's probably not fixable, which is not good. But they did air it out a lot more yesterday, and based on, even from what we saw last year, I know Jones had some deep completions last year that looked great, but there were also a lot of underthrows last year, inaccurate deep balls. I know he had some that were converted and things like that, but even last year we saw kind of signs and clues that maybe he's not the best deep ball thrower. Yesterday was the worst I've seen. It really can't get much worse than that. But if it's not that bad going forward, I guess you can live with it. But it's still not encouraging.
Yeah, no, I agree. But guys, thank you guys so much for being here, man. I really do appreciate it. I didn't know Bad Dog was having a stream, Nick, but no, I will not. I'm going to take the rest of the night off. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate all the support you guys always show us. Mike, I'm going to let you close out like I do all my guests. Thank you for coming on. Keep doing what you're doing. And let's go Giants.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully we find a way to win these next 2 games, which I think are winnable. If the Giants end up 3-7, maybe we're talking about the playoffs. That would be pretty exciting rather than talking about the draft here in early November, as we always seem to do. But if they find a way to do it, that would be great. So once again, thanks for having me, Chris, and I'll talk to you next Tuesday.
It was a pleasure, man. Have a good one, buddy. Have a good night, guys, and try to enjoy the election. Have a good one.